Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Uncharted 4 Crushing Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 2, Infernal Place. We're going to be doing some light traversal that will lead to some of the signature platforming. And this level is going to be tutorializing the ability to use this grappling hook, which is a new feature of this fourth game. I think the platforming with the grapple hook is absolutely beautiful, and I have been one of the most stalwart critics against the platforming in Uncharted, because I always felt that it was missing a level of precision that would have made it just the top tier of climbing. And that came from being a person who enjoyed Prince of Persia's back when Ubisoft gave a fuck and didn't just whore annualized sequels, even though, we got quite a few Prince of Persia's by the end. But, I grew up on N64 platformers. I progressed into things like Prince of Persia. I played a lot of really top-tier platformers for the time that were the edge of technology in their day. They did it the best. And then we came to Uncharted, and everybody's telling me, oh, the platforming's amazing, and this is amazing, and I just never felt that it was as good as it could have been. This is the first game, for me personally, where I think they really nailed it. There are still instances where he'll grab everything, and then when you want him to, he won't grab the thing you want. There's still instances where, you'll go the wrong direction when you're holding it, even though they've implemented the reaching system now, which I think is very clever. And there are still moments where you will die because he didn't grab something, but it's nowhere near as egregious as it was in some of those older games. They've got to a point now, especially with the grappling hook, which, if anything, I think the greatest crime about the grappling hook is it's a little bit underused for my taste. I think they should have been able to grapple on more things. It would have just made so much more sense, but there's definitely a reserve that they used when implementing it, and I can understand that. I don't understand this. He throws you away from the door just so that he can go and open it. Like, this is an act, nobody's watching, why the hell does he do that? It's very strange programming, that bit. But we're moving forward towards some climbing, and then in the last video, I expressed why this game is going to be very difficult or very different for people who are used to the way that third-person shooters work on a fundamental scale, and how this game has changed that. And there's going to be so many situations that are added to this that are going to compound this problem that I've mentioned. And this game has, by far, some of the most dynamic, progressive action set pieces of any third-person shooter I've ever played. And on paper, it's wonderful. You've got all this verticality. You've got all these separate angles to go to move to flank to. All this really interesting stuff. And then when it comes to playing it, some of the least fun I've ever had in a game. And this is going to be a really unpopular opinion, because at this moment in time, everybody's loving Uncharted 4. Everybody's saying it's, the best thing. It's moving the genre forward. Naughty Dog have made a masterpiece. And I think a lot of that stands true for everything but the combat. The changes to the combat in this game are so divisive for me personally that I spent pretty much the entire game fearing and not wanting to fight, which is not me at all, if you've ever heard my opinions of the other Naughty Dog games. I normally play for those moments. I played for the combat in those older Uncharted games. In this game, every time people started shooting, I groaned, and I wanted it to be over. That was on my first playthrough as well. It's not like I was fatigued. It's not like I was bored or anything, even though in some fights I definitely was, because I think that the enemy counts and the encounters themselves are just... they are designed to be annoying. 100% annoying the entire time. And I knew from the very first gunfight that's a proper gunfight, which is the one in Scotland, when Shoreline turn up. I knew at that point, after I'd killed 4 people in a row twice with single grenades, I knew I wasn't going to like the combat in this game. And lo and behold, I don't. I think this game has the best platforming of any Uncharted. I think it's the most beautiful Uncharted of all the Uncharteds. I think the story and its delivery is the most mature and most evenly paced of all the Uncharteds. I think the car traversal and car puzzle / platforming is wonderful. It shouldn't work, and it super does. I am surprised at just how well it gels together. But when it comes to fighting, I don't think this game's fun. I think there is just no fun there for me. And do not fear, guys. I'm going to get you through a lot of these environments. But I'm just going to be bringing a different perspective to everybody else, because everybody else is absolutely adoring the game. And that's fantastic. I didn't. There were a few moments where I wanted to stop. And that is just not like me at all. And that just goes to show how this game plays is not how I enjoy Uncharted. And this is a very controversial opinion, but it's true, guys. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, because that's just not what I'm about. We have a little puzzle coming up here. It gives you two symbols. The two symbols are 10 and 2. Add them together, and all you need to do is press the Roman numeral for 12, which I didn't think you could get stuck at this particular puzzle, and I was proven wrong by DSP, which was wonderful, because that man just has a gift for overcomplicating things and saying it was impossible and there was no way to figure it out. But yeah, there that was anyway. Before you can get it to work, though, you have to examine the item on the wall, and then you have to look at the piece of paper to know that you have to fold it, which is a little bit arbitrary once you understand the puzzle, but I understand why it works that way.
That's more like it.
But the combat is very spaced in this game too. It's evenly paced in such a way that I think is a really, really good touch. The set pieces themselves seem to be much larger this time around. Instead of getting you a bunch of smaller excursions and then a big one, there seems to be bigger gaps between fights and then bigger fights. And just through the way that the game is designed, some of these fights are going to be so very different to anything you've played in an Uncharted before. And I think it's the lack of the traditional gunfights that's what makes me so reticent to enjoy it. And it wasn't any of the difficult stuff. Because the first thing people are going to say, which is the same thing they always say, is it was hard, you were getting frustrated, and you weren't enjoying it. And they can be 100% true with that sentiment. I've had games I've played where when it got really hard, I got really disheartened, and I had a bad time. But I always knew it was on me then. You know, I had to get better and improve and learn to win kind of situation, which is kind of what I do with this channel, and people who watch understand the process of that. It's not immediate. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a tough process. But I wasn't getting that with this game. I just was getting kind of an emptiness. And I don't know why, you know? It just didn't feel fun at all. Every single fight seemed to be the same thing. It seemed to be a whole bunch of egresses to get to you, because the levels are so multi-layered now with verticality and alternate paths. Every single AI is jumping up and climbing walls and going absolutely nuts with the parkour and coming from the left and coming from above and coming from the right. Then they all start throwing grenades if you find a good position, which you won't, because the cover's been so intelligently designed that the only cover in the levels for the most degrades, so it's not real cover. And then when you do find some kind of cover, which is oftentimes hanging off a cliff, you can only use a pistol. It takes 9 bullets to kill a heavy with a pistol, and they're all in the face. 9 headshots to take down one enemy. They give you 18 bullets in a clip usually, and there's generally about 30 enemies to kill. How the fuck do you kill 30 enemies with 20 bullets? And the answer's obvious, you don't. So you have to put yourself into a bad situation, and in this bad situation, it generally goes poorly. And if somebody does throw a grenade at you, you can't throw it back, because Drake, for whatever reasons, forgot how to do that, even though I know in one of them you could. And it just culminates in every single fight is annoying. Every single fight is a 40-minute war of attrition, where you don't have the ammo you want, you don't have the cover you need, and now because the cover system works in such a specific way, you feel vulnerable the entire time, and it's not a good kind of vulnerable. It's not a I'm being challenged vulnerability. It's this just doesn't feel fun, because I cannot put myself into a position of power. And the whole point of cover in third-person shooters is for respite. It's to have a haven. This game offers no havens. And at first I'm thinking, this is interesting by the way, the combat in this game is actually pretty fun, but it's also kind of dumb, because it just kind of takes a little bit too long. So the basic rock, paper, scissors is square, fights, triangle breaks grabs if anybody grabs you, and circle ducks punches if you're being punched. Interesting combination, I thought. And then every fight after this, you can't roll away from punches. So what's the fucking point in teaching us that we can roll away from punches when it matters you turn that mechanic off? It's really, really dumb. Every single Nadine fight, you cannot duck any punches because it's designed for you to get your ass kicked. But once you've done it and you come back, it's not fun watching Drake get beat up for 10 minutes when I'm trying to get to a sequence where I get to play. It's such an interesting situation, and you can die in these grabs as well. One of the most hilarious aspects of the new enemies is there's an enemy type in this game that grabs you. That's what he does. He wears a gas mask, he's very aggressive, and he comes and grabs you. And you would think, when you get grabbed by somebody in a game where you can die very fast, that you would be able to break his guard quickly. You would think that, wouldn't you? Well, you can't. I don't know what the fuck they were smoking that day, but this enemy grabs you for 15 seconds, even if you mash triangle. Like, if my stick was for PS4, I would test a turbo button to see if I could get this motherfucker off me any faster than 5 seconds, and I can guarantee you probably can't, because it's designed to be a dick. And every single gunfight's like that. Post Chapter 13. It gets so hilarious, and at the moment you're watching this, if you're watching this, you might not be. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're probably a fan of the game, and you're probably real close to writing an angry comment to counter some of the points I've put forward, because that seems to be the attention that I provoke whenever I have a difference of an opinion on a game a lot of people like. But at the moment, there's been nothing challenging. The most challenging thing to come is going to be the firefight getting out of the heist that we're going to be doing to get the second cross. Or the second weird, not crucified man thing. And right now, look at us, we're taking bullets. If that was brutal, we might have died then, because on brutal, isn't it a 2-bullet kill almost exclusively outside of very specific situations? But in this game, you take bullets like a champ, and it's a good job you do, because you're gonna need that later on. But here's another fight. Up against 3 dudes. So, here we go. I get grabbed from behind. Look how long it takes to get this fucking guy off me. You know, if anyone else had had a gun, we were dead. I think that might be programmed just then, and that was quite quick compared to those gas mask dudes. See him grab me? Press triangle, gets him off every time. So is that the end? Oh, that's the end of the fight. That's unfortunate. I wanted to speak more about the combat. The combat is surprisingly simple. I have no idea why I got that trophy, but there you go. One would think I'd have got it on my first run, but I didn't. All you want to be doing is mashing square to fight people. The moment you get grabbed or you see them put their hands on you, press triangle to get them off you. And if you get punched, just press circle and roll away. And then repeat. That is the philosophy for every single fight in this game, except for the fight at the end of the game, which I'm going to talk about in the coming videos. But this is all still, rapid, aggressive storytelling and some mild tutorials. It's teaching you how to move, it's teaching you where to go, how to interpret the game's world. Because one amazing thing Uncharted 4 does, on top of all the other amazing things it does, because, have you looked at this game? This game is insane. It's the most beautiful console game I've ever played. And the 30 frames per second holds up so well, there will be a lot of people that don't even realise that the frame rate is, subpar. Because that's how good they've optimised it, that's how great it feels to play, and it's a testament to consistent frame performance. But the one great thing that this game does is it's kind of got rid of the arbitrary, everything's luminously coloured to show you where you have to climb, and they've replaced it with much more subtle cues. And they've done this because we know now that we're going to be climbing shit on the side of buildings. We know we need to find a path, so they can be so much more subtle than they were ever before. And I can remember when this mechanic wasn't a mechanic, it wasn't a known thing that we were going to climb up walls and they would have certain bits of leading that would tell us that we could climb it. So I got stuck on Uncharted 2, which was my first Uncharted. But nowadays, you take one look at a building, you know exactly where you have to go. So they've enabled it now to reduce it down so that it's a lot more natural, it's a lot more organic, and it looks like it suits the world. So that's just absolutely beautiful design and a great evolution of a system that they set out to design, and then they've iterated and iterated, and they've got it to the point now where you feel like you're climbing the side of a house rather than some kind of Mickey Mouse climbing wall that was stuck onto the side of someone's house. But thank you very much for watching. You take care now.